Welcome to Holly Headlines, and you can't have a Legends Day or a Legends Tour without the King of the Hill, Pat Day, the #1 earning jockey in history at $297 million, is in the house. Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Bob. Thank you. It's such a joy and a privilege and a pleasure to be here tonight.
You know, we were just talking before this. You're 54 right now. That's the exact same age Bill Shoemaker was in '86 when he won the Derby with Ferdinand. You're not supposed to be retired.
Well, I got the nod from God in 2005, and it was time to move on. And I've enjoyed retirement tremendously. Very involved with the Racetrack Chaplaincy of America, and very enjoying this trip with Legends on Tour now with Lafitte and Angel and the others, and it's just a great time.
And what a legendary race that was, too, back in '84 in the Breeders' Cup. Now, Wild Again was the winner of the race. That was you, but it didn't come easy, did it?
No, it didn't. Wild Again, he just ran an outstanding race that afternoon. Actually ran off in the early stages, but in the late stages, I'd never been on a horse before or since that tried any harder than he did. And there was some jostling in the stretch. You know, Slew of Gold and Angel were in the middle. Gate Dancer on the outside was lugging in when he got to us, and Lafitte was doing a masterful job of trying to keep him straight and keep him running. It was just everything you could expect in a great horse race, a great finish to a wonderful day, and I think it really kicked the Breeders' Cup off in the right direction.
And what was the conversation like among you and the judges after the race? Because we knew we had the cameras in on the judges' stand, but I can't remember what the jockey, what was going on there?
Well, I think Angel was the first one who went to the phone, and obviously I wasn't privy to that conversation, but when I got on the phone, I just simply told him that, you know, my horse was bearing out. I tried to keep him straight, and I left it in their hands, and ultimately they wound up taking Gate Dancer down, as you know, and placing him third behind Slew of Gold, and there was a little mixed feelings about whether that was the right decision or not, but I think when everybody looked at it closely, it was certainly the right choice.
Well, you won the Eclipse 4 times, you led and win 6 times. The '86 Pegasus was also a nice race for you, Danzig Connection. Tell us a little bit about him.
Pretty free-running kind of horse. Didn't like the whip a lot. We discovered that early on. When you'd hit him, he would want to back up. But run a masterful race here for Woody Stevens. Woody Stevens brought him into the race in great shape, and he responded beautifully. And you know, I'd had the privilege of riding him just before the Belmont, but then I had another call on a horse called Rampage, whom I'd won the Arkansas Derby on, and I rode him back in the Belmont. Chris McCarron rode Danzig Connection in that race and won. And then I don't know just what happened between then and the Cap here and Meadowlands Cap. I got back on him and was happy to have the opportunity, and he got the job done for us.
There used to be an argument about the best jockeys, are they in New York or in California? I think you make a pretty good case they were at Churchill Downs with you guys, huh?
Well, you know, the good riders come from anywhere, just like a good horse can come from anywhere. But obviously, the bulk of the good riders are based either in New York or California, where the good money was. But I think that's changing a bit over the years. We've got some good young riders coming out of the Midwest now, and they're competing on wherever they go and being very competitive.
Now, how much of being a top jockey, very elite, is natural? And how much of that is made? Can you actually be a good athlete and make yourself into a top jockey, or is it something you're more likely to be born with?
Well, I think you have to have a certain gift to really be at the top of the top. You know, you can certainly learn the basics and you can implement them very well, but there's got to be a feel. There's got to be something special there, I think, that sets you apart. And I believe that that's true in any sporting event. You know, your determination and try and effort can take you only so far, and then there has to be a certain amount of natural ability that comes in.
And I was going to ask you about top apprentices are very often not top journeymen. Why is it so tough to make that transition? Is it lack of experience? Are they intimidated? What is that?
Well, I think it's a combination of all the above. The biggest thing is the stock. You know, if they were able to maintain their momentum when they lose their apprentice allowance, if they could continue getting on live horses, they would continue to win. But oftentimes, when they're no longer allowed to have the weight allowance, trainers seek the experience advantage that, you know, with an older and more seasoned rider, and so consequently they basically have to start over, and it just makes it very difficult to get their business back, start getting on good horses. If they're able to do that, then they're able to carry on. You
know, two-time heavyweight champion George Foreman once said, young champions have a way of becoming old contenders. Is some of that true in thoroughbred racing too?
Young champions become old contenders.
Is it sometimes tough to say goodbye? Do they tell you when you're going to go, or do you tell them when you're going to retire? How does that work?
Well, it's the individual's choice, and I was very fortunate. In 2005, I sought the direction of the Lord and got the nod from God, so to speak, that it was time to retire from riding and commit my time full-time to the ministry work. My heart goes out to those that have been forced to the sidelines by injury and didn't have a say in the time and the place that they chose to retire. I think that makes it very, very difficult to, it just goes down hard when it goes down that way.
We'd like to think there's a fraternity among retired jockeys. Is that the case? How does that work?
Well, I think there's a real fraternity amongst riders everywhere. I've got the utmost respect for riders. As you know, they probably spend more waking hours in the jockey's room, in the close confines of the jockey's room with one another than they do with their families. And when you think that they all the common areas they share, they get suited up right next to one another, and then they go out on the racetrack and compete for hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars, and then come back into the jock's room and are the best of friends. I mean, could you imagine if they had two football teams suit up in the same locker room, go to the same locker room at halftime and come back out? And basically that's what we do, and we go out there and we compete sometimes 8, 9, 10 times a day. So my hat goes off to riders and the way that they conduct themselves, a great fraternity of men and women that participate in the great sport of horse racing.
Well, there's only one jockey in the world who can say, I won more purse money than any other jockey ever, and his name is Pat Day. Thanks so much for stopping by, Pat.
It's a joy to be here with you, Bob, and best to everybody in house tonight. The best of luck to you. God bless you, and thank you so much for coming out.
Great, thanks.